We're through 8 days of training camp, almost the midway point. We're getting through it. With Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This is Eagle Eye. We have a lot to get to today.
Yeah, 8 practices, a total of 3 hours and 52 minutes of practice time.
Yeah, we'll talk about the some of the things we've learned about Nick Sirianni. We'll actually lead off with that today, and that's one of them is how short these practices have been. We want to talk about Jalen Reagor a little bit. It's been an eventful few weeks for him. We'll get to my practice observations from Thursday, and we have a few other things stock up, stock down as we head into a Players' Day off on Friday. But let's start with Nick Sirianni because this was one of the things I really wanted to see. This coach that not a lot of people knew much about. He wasn't a hot name, and the Eagles have had success with coaches like that before. But I was really curious to see what kind of coach he would be and what this training camp would look like. And I haven't been disappointed because there have been some fun differences with Sirianni from Doug and really things I've seen with Sirianni that I haven't really seen elsewhere.
Yeah, you're right. I think there's definitely some encouraging things. There's some things that I don't want to say red flags. That's a little strong, but some things I'm not quite sure about. As far as the encouraging stuff, his practices are extremely well organized, efficient. Everybody knows where to go and when to be there. They get the most out of the time they have. There's always motion. There's always a purpose. There's a purpose for everything that everyone is doing. If one position group has a 10-minute break between drills, they'll go off with a trainer or a position coach and do some kind of, wacky, weird reflex drill or something, with robots and who knows what else. But there's a purpose for everything. You can tell they really thought this out. There's no sense of, this time is not being used as much as possible. His practices are impressive. They're crisp. They get a lot done. He's pretty hands-on, and we've seen him mainly talk to the receivers, but he'll come over and we've seen him be a hard ass too. I haven't seen him be a hard ass with anyone other than wide receivers yet. I've seen him run over a few times and congratulate defensive players for big plays, which is interesting. He's got to be a coach for the whole team, not just the offense or the wide receivers. It's interesting because I think you asked him about this today. He is a player's coach. He listens to them. He's very, very aware of what they want, what they need, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and all that. But he's also hard on them. And a few guys have talked about that. So you kind of think of those as being mutually exclusive, but with him, they're not.
And they can't be, by the way.
You're right. You're totally right. You can't be a player's coach and not have discipline. And, but it's been interesting to watch. And I think that he's got a lot of confidence in what he's doing for a rookie coach. There's no indecision. There's no, there's no sense of, I'm not sure about exactly he's got this all. It's like he had this plan for years, what he was going to do if he was a head coach. Now he's just executing it and doing it. The short practices concern me a little because training camp is about getting ready for Sundays in the fall. And I don't know if he can do that. I understand he wants to keep these guys healthy, and that's big. But are you going to be ready to tackle and block and hit for 3 hours on Sundays if you're not practicing it? And they're not out there that much. There's something to be said for the grind of pushing through long, hot practices. They haven't been either. It's been cool and short.
Not much you can do about that.
Not much you can do about the heat, but I think next week will be a little warmer. But I just feel like, and it's not even a matter of the reps, but just mentally. And look, this is the new wave of the NFL. Practices are getting shorter and shorter, and more emphasis on classroom and film and meetings and learning. But this is pretty extreme, Dave. I mean, today was what, an hour 15?
Yeah, they're short. My counter to that would be they're getting a lot done in a short window. That was my one problem with Doug's practices was that it always felt like, and it almost felt we went like from one extreme to the other, from Chip to Doug. But there was a lot of standing around during Doug practices. It was a lot of time between drills. You need some time. You need to have hydration time and that sort of thing. But it did feel like a lot of standing around. underdog. Whereas they're going from drill to drill to drill. It's not quite Chip Kelly fast, but they're
Right.
getting in and out, and they're getting a lot of work done. They're even at times they're going split field where the 2s and 3s are on one side and the 1s are on another. So the 1s are getting all the reps that they need, and so you're splitting up the 2s and 3s as opposed to a third of the time when you're all in the same field. So they've found ways to maximize time. I get what you're saying about, just being out there for a grind, but training camp's still a grind for these guys. I know it's not, 1982 anymore, but the guys are there from, like 6 in the morning until 8 at night. It's not like they're showing up for a 4-hour shift and clocking out. I mean, these are long days. The emphasis has changed from on-field practice time to film study to meeting time. And they obviously workout time is different as well, but it's still long days for these guys. It's not like it's all of a sudden easy because they're not on the field for 3 hours.
No, and there's no question about it. It's not a country club. They're long days. My only concern is that they're not on the field enough. And they do have a walkthrough later in the day. And the NFL rule is that you can't be on the field more than 4 hours total in the 2 practices. We don't know how long the walkthroughs are, but I'm guessing they're not 2.5 hours or what.
Probably not.
They're probably 45 minutes. We don't know. And he said the walkthroughs are at a fast pace other than the actual play. So they're moving quickly between plays and they're maximizing that time. I still don't think it's enough time. And I get everything you're saying and I agree with it. And I do think it makes sense, especially in a salary cap era, to have the emphasis be on the mental side of things. I still think you need to hit, you need to,
well, that's a different story. I think
hitting, they both go hand in hand. I think, they've been.
I don't know if they do, because I feel like they're getting almost as many reps as they got under Doug. They're just coming in a shorter amount of time.
Doug's practices were about an hour longer.
Yeah, and there was a lot of.
There wasn't that much to make it even.
It was pretty close. I think if we looked at the amount of throws, it'd be pretty close.
Well, I'm surprised you don't have those numbers at your disposal.
I don't. I was talking to Elliot Shore-Parks today, who charts every throw, and he mentioned to me that the numbers are close.
Okay.
In terms of pure throws. So yeah, well, he does chart every play.
Yes, he does.
Which is a lot of work. I don't know how valuable it is sometimes, but for this, it's very valuable. I was joking with it, but this is very valuable. Honestly, that it looks like it. They're getting a lot of work in a short amount of time. Now, tackling and hitting is a different story to me. I was a little disappointed on Thursday to see them come out without pads. They had 2 days in pads. It was the first 2 days in pads of training camp. And I really thought, especially because yesterday was a veteran day off, I really thought they'd be in pads again today and maybe even go a little more thud. And they were in shorts and shells again the day before an off day. That was surprising to me. And even on Wednesday when they were in pads, they finished, this was really strange to me. They finished practice with a goal line period. And I hustled up to the line. I wanted to be right there. I'm ready for this. This is the last day. I heard it was the last period of practice. They're on the goal line. You think Mr. Competition, Nick Sirianni, he's going to ratchet this up. This is going to be a big period. And then it was like walk-through pace, and there was no hitting, not even thud. Now, it was kind of a letdown, and I understand they're walking that line, but it felt like that was a moment to me where I'd like to see them go a little hard. Maybe they'll do goal line drills for real later. I know that they've been installing, but that part of it's a little disappointing to me. I think you're right about that. I think I'd like a little more hitting, not to the point of, your quarterback getting thrown under a pile of a fight up with the Giants, but I think there's a middle ground they can find.
Yeah, look, they're off tomorrow, and again, the days off are mandated by the CBA, so they have to take 1 out of every 5 days off. Mm-hmm. You can't pad up more than 3 days in a row, and after your third day, you need 3 days of not padded practice or of of not having a pad of practice. So you can either practice in shells or not practice at all. Well, they're off Monday. So today's what? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is at the link.
Which just structurally is tough to get a real practice over there.
Yeah, so they're not going to be in pads at the link. So they won't be in pads Friday. Maybe they will Saturday, but then Sunday they won't be, and Monday they won't be because they're off again. Then they practice Tuesday, then they're off Wednesday because it's the day before a game. Then they play the Steelers, then they're off Friday. Now, Wednesday and Friday are CBA mandated. You can't practice. But I don't understand why Monday's a day off, or it's a walkthrough day, which is close to us. I just feel like it's not enough. I just feel like it's not enough. On
the flip side of that, we've seen this team get ravaged by injuries. And there's two schools of thought here. One is that this will prevent injuries because there are fewer chances to get hurt. But you could also argue the lack of hitting and work now could hurt them from a conditioning standpoint, from a toughness standpoint. So I can see both ways, but I understand the logic here too. Even if you don't agree, I think you can still understand the logic.
I do understand the logic, and I don't disagree with the logic. I just disagree, I guess, with the extreme of 75-minute practices. I don't know. I just don't think that's enough. I'm all for being smart. I'm all for keeping guys healthy. I'm all for veteran days off. I'm all for being smart. I just think it's not enough time.
I did want to dive a little bit more into Sirianni as a tough coach, because that's a big part of this. And I didn't want to breeze by that, but we saw him the other day get on Jalen Reagor. Like it was the most aggressive we've seen him coaching. And I think that's good. And he actually brought up something that made me chuckle. He brought up Larry Karras, who was his coach in college, legendary coach. And he said, Mount Union, he would make the week really tough. And then game day, he's your best friend. He's rooting for you. That's really similar to Jeff Stoutland, who is about as aggressive a coach as you can get. And I remember talking to Jordan Mailata after his first preseason game a few years ago. And Mailata didn't know that, because you're going through OTAs, you're going through training camp, and every day Stout's on him. And then on game day becomes a cheerleader, because by then the tough love needs to be pushed out the window. And I agree with this philosophy. The tough love's out the window. You gotta have, unless they're doing something really stupid. And Sirianni brought that up too. But, for the most part, that's when you want a cheerleader. You want someone to say, look, the hard work's done. Now you just got to do what we've taught you. And that seems to be his philosophy. So I really like that philosophy. Be tough during the week. So on game days, you can be a little more relaxed and just be totally behind your guys.
The last thing any player needs is to be screamed at on game day.
Like you're warming up.
Yeah, unless it's something really egregious. There is room for it sometimes, but I think, and you mentioned Reagor. I mean, he seems to. I think this is true for the guys we've talked to. At least I think they embrace that. I think they want to be pushed hard. I think most serious athletes in any sport want to be pushed. They want coaching. They want to be. When they do something wrong, they want to be reminded of it. They want to be pushed hard. Jalen Hurts mentioned that specifically, that he really embraces that part of it. He wants somebody to push him hard. I think the fact that Reagor, has talked about accountability and that he likes that kind of coaching, and he responded with one of his best day, maybe his best day he's ever had, is a good sign. He's a kid who in the past might not have had the maturity to handle that. He's still only 22. He's been through a lot, like you mentioned, since really this summer. But he seems to have reacted positively, which is a good sign.
Yeah. Sirianni there are a lot of facets to his coaching style that I've really enjoyed getting to know over the last couple weeks. Another part, and he's brought up his teacher background, and he comes from a family of teachers. What do you make of him showing videos? It's not uncommon. There are a lot of coaches who do it, but I think it's kind of interesting, some of the videos he chooses and how they've stuck with guys.
Yeah.
One of them was Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut eating hot dogs. But hearing Nick Sirianni talk about it was really kind of cool because it is true. It sounds silly, but that's a if you it's a sport, you know, it's whatever. But that's something that I wouldn't call it a hobby. That'd be a weird hobby. But it's something where detail, when you're talking about a finite time, and he was right, like every little detail that matters. And like the water temperature has to be right. You have to break the hot dogs exactly in half so they fit perfectly in your mouth. Like, and he has these different teaching points, and he shows a video. That one's on detail. There was the Kobe one that I think we talked about before, but
So Kobe and Kobayashi.
Kobe and Kobe, man, we're seeing a trend here. Is there a lesson in Kobe beef somewhere?
Probably.
Maybe. But the Kobe Bryant one, or at least one of the Kobe Bryant ones, was his 4 airball game in the 98 Western Conference Finals. They were about getting back up and having
I have a theory.
the courage. Yeah.
So I have a theory about it. I was reading, actually, this has nothing to do with football, but I was reading an article about how kids, like when we grew up, we associated with the bands that we loved, you know, whether it was Aerosmith or Black Sabbath or Genesis. That was our identity, was like tied to the bands that we liked and the music we liked. And kids today are more tied to video games, and they see things, you know, everything is based on video and video games, and that's how they. What are you laughing at?
I can someone please cut that for me when you said kids today. I just want that. I want that sound for myself. I feel like I can use that a lot. Kids today like their video games.
Little whippersnappers. Yeah. But no, the point being that they, you know, athletes, people the same age as most of these players, the ones he's trying to get through to are 21 through 24 for the most part. The ones that and I think they've been born and raised on video, on YouTube and TikTok and you know, Netflix, and it's, you know, that's their identity more than other things that used to be. You know, it's just the way things have evolved. So I think by showing videos, he's putting his message first. It's a different voice. It's not him, like he said, talking all the time. He's got a different voice there, but it's also a medium that they really are comfortable with and that resonates with them. So I think when you show a video to them, and they're short videos, it's not like he's, you know, putting a movie on. I think it's a good way to get through to them in a way that really connects with them.
Yeah, and honestly,
that's my theory.
I get it, you know, and even it was Jacoby Stevens was saying he was.
There it is again, Jacoby.
Jacoby Stevens said I think he said he was at home watching TV with his girlfriend, and the hot dog eating contest came on, and all of a sudden he's transported back and he's thinking about details and he's watching these. I think there's something to it. Well, we're talking about, like, what's the difference here? Him doing this, is it like a 5-game swing this year? No, but I think it sets a good base for what he wants this program to be.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting glimpse into who he is and how, you know, what kind of coach he is and how he gets his message across. He's all about connecting. That's his big word, and that's part of it. That's a good way to connect is with these videos and these.
One of my favorite things he said today, because he was talking about a lot about the length of practices, and he said, well, we're doing a lot of other things at full speed. He said, we're connecting at full speed. Right. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, but his point being, you know, that we're doing everything at full speed. We're doing walkthroughs at full speed.
Yeah.
Other than the actual play. So yeah, we'll see. It's you know, he's an interesting guy. He's
I've been impressed by his confidence to be himself.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's very consistent that way. You know, you know exactly where he stands. You know, I mean, we've only been around him for 6 months. He's only hired 6 months ago in a couple of days, but I think we kind of have a really good sense of everything that he's about. He's very clear. His message is clear. His message is always a simple one. You know, they're almost like cliche. It's like there's just like these fundamental principles. He's got, you know, it's very basic. He doesn't clutter these guys' minds with too much. It leaves them free to really focus on learning the plays and technique and stuff. He's got a chance. I mean, I'll tell you what, anybody who is evaluating him still at this point for his first press conference, I would say watch him at practice if you can. Watch his press conferences. Get to understand what he's all about, because that's not who he is.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I was trying to think back this week early on and with Doug and Jim Schwartz, and I've been much, and this doesn't mean anything, but I've been much more intrigued by this coaching staff.
Well, yeah, and I think part of that is like, I knew Doug since '99. I mean, we knew he was an Andy Reid disciple. So there weren't, with Nick, there's like, even Chip Kelly, was a total, he was new to the NFL, but we were familiar with him because, he ran a celebrated program in Oregon. Andy was like the last one who kind of came in. And
was it kind of like that? Where you like everything, you're just learning so much about this guy every day. I never felt like that with Doug. And you're right, with Chip, it was like, we know this guy's kind of doing his own thing, but you knew what that thing was. I feel like I've learned so much about Sirianni and Gannon to a certain extent over these last week and a half or whatever it's been.
Agree. Andy was not anywhere near as forthcoming explaining his philosophies and he wasn't forthcoming about anything really for the most part, but he never really got into what he was thinking and the why of how he was doing things. Just very surface level, where Nick will give you, you ask him a question about the way he does something and he'll give you the background, the story, the coach that inspired it, the reasoning, how it affects. He will go into great detail.
Just the fact that he has an answer is encouraging.
Yeah. He's got an answer for everything, and it makes sense, and it's consistent with what he said in the past. There's a line of consistency through everything he says and does. Now, again, does that mean they're going to win games? No, but I think he gives him a chance to win the players over, because I think players appreciate that. They want consistency. You don't want to be told, you're doing it wrong when you did it the same way a week ago and you're told you're doing it right. He's very consistent that way. It's a clear message, and guys will respond to that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on, because this is kind of a lot of, I feel like we're like 10,000 miles up in the air looking at this thing. Let's get down back on ground level with Jalen Reagor, who I thought, you're right, he had a very good day on Thursday. Not a perfect day. There was, he had one bad drop, but he did make the catch of camp so far. It's going to be tough to top it. It was in one-on-ones. It wasn't in team drills. So you knock it like if we're like gymnastics judges, we knock it like half a point there. But heck of a play, one-on-ones against Darius Slay, who had excellent coverage. Darius Slay was all over him, but Reagor rises up, caught it one-handed, but it wasn't just a one-handed catch. He got the nose of the football. He let the nose of the football get him in the palm, and that's how he brought it down. It was spectacular. It really was.
Yeah, and I was in the media workroom finishing my story at that point.
Oh, so you missed it? It was great.
I missed it. Yeah, all of a sudden I saw 30 tweets about it, and I missed it. And there's no video. It's a shame, There's no.
Well, the Eagles are. Well, we're not allowed to videotape that section, but the Eagles did. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, they film everything, obviously, from not just the coaches, but their whatever media people. But yeah, I would love to see it. I did see him catch a couple other balls later in practice. I thought, just from everything I heard and what I saw, I think it was good practice for him. And like I said earlier, that's a good sign.
Yeah, and there was another rep in the one-on-one drills where he kind of undressed Slay with a double move, and then he was wide open and it popped off his hands. It was a bad drop, and he was mad at himself. He let out a pretty loud expletive. He was not happy, but he rebounded from that. And he did. He made it down the left sideline in team drills. He made a tough catch. There was players draped all over him.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by the way he's bounced back from a really rough start to training camp.
Yeah, and you know what I like about it? I think I was thinking about this. He's always been a guy that, like, he's always mad at the media. He's mad at the fans. He's always like finding, he's got this chip on his shoulder, which is fine, but he was like channeling it the wrong way, I thought. And I feel like, and maybe this is a leap, but I just feel like, he's been through a lot. He's still got that chip on his shoulder, but maybe he's focusing more now on what he's doing on the field. And, instead of just talking this and that, let me show that what kind of player I am. I've been down on him. I've been pretty open about being discouraged by what he did last year. But if he can string together, look, everybody can have a day like today, but he's got to string them together. I think his confidence is in a good place, which is really important. And, let's, go make plays. Jalen Hurts seems to like throwing to him. And, we'll see how it goes. They need him. I mean, I don't think any of the wide receivers have really been consistently good. Greg Ward's caught the balls that he should have caught so far.
I think Quez has been.
I think Quez has been their best wide receiver. He's the only one.
Yeah.
What's that? I'm sorry.
At least with consistency, yes.
Yeah, and he missed a couple of days, but I think he's the only one that hasn't dropped balls, and that you think, well, he shouldn't have dropped that. I think he's been really solid. Devontae has only practiced briefly, but if Reagor can, and again, it's a big jump from a good practice without pads on a Thursday to Novacare to making plays on Sundays, but it was definitely an encouraging day for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts you come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, visit AAA.com/Eagles.
All right, Rube, let's go through my practice obs from Thursday. We'll keep it short because Reagor was a big part of it, but Alex Singleton getting close to coming back from the COVID list. He's been in that conditioning phase. So I think maybe Saturday he'll be back on the field, and then it'll be really interesting to see what the linebacker rotation looks like. They've been rotating everyone in through there. So, and they could use them too, because Davion Taylor's out. Now Jacoby Stevens, who had that big day on Wednesday, is also out. He's week to week with a new injury. So getting Alex Singleton back with big, that's happening soon. Any other injury news? I don't think so. Everyone is pretty much the same.
Yeah. I think Rodney looks really good. We watch him on the side fields. He looks like he might still be a couple weeks away, but he looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. Devontae Smith, we saw him run inside and run back outside at a pretty good clip. He does not look like someone with a knee injury. He's got no brace on there. There's no wrap on there. He ran from like the 50-yard line off the field through the media and fan area and into the Novacare at a good clip, not favoring it. I thought that was pretty encouraging. He does not look like he's hurt right now. Yeah. Maybe he'll practice this weekend.
I kind of doubt that. I think they'll probably take it as maybe a little slower than normal.
Maybe, but he needs to work.
I get that, but you're not going to rush him out there with an injury.
No, it's just a matter of whether he still has the injury or not. He looks fine. Obviously, one run inside and back out isn't, they're going to want to make sure his range of motion and strength and all that. But the point is, he looks good.
Yeah, and he's been on the jugs machine every morning, so he's still finding ways to be engaged. He's on the practice field every day with the receiving group. So yeah, I wouldn't rush him, and I know you wouldn't either. But we don't know where he is. I'd anticipate they're going to take it pretty slow with him, as they probably should. Other one-on-ones today: Zach McPherson, another big pass breakup. It was on Andre Patton, who you might be like, who? But he's played in this league. He's not some undrafted rookie. He's got some tricks. McPherson's just super aggressive. He's fun to watch. He really is.
He's a good-looking kid. He's got some good size. I guess he was with Steichen in San Diego.
Well, he was with Sirianni, and I think there was some crossover.
Okay. Yeah. So he
17,
knows,
I think. Yeah.
He knows
he's been around.
McPherson, he does something to catch your eye every day.
Every day.
A lot of times with these young guys, they start making plays the first few days, and then, mental and physical fatigue catches them, and they kind of, you just don't see them flash anymore. But so far, McPherson has gotten through the first 2 blocks of 4 days, and he's looked good. I don't know what kind of role he'll have and where he fits in, but he's really smart. I mean, he's always in the right place. He's really around the ball. I mean, I think you have to really know what you're doing to make those plays that he's been making. He's very active, interesting
Yeah.
player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's been really fun to watch. And by the way, so Darius Slay was in coverage on that Jalen Reagor great catch, and I tweeted about it, of course, like you mentioned. I had a bunch of negative Slay responses. There was nothing Darius Slay could have done. He's had a pretty good camp. I mean, he's a really good cover corner. It's just sometimes one of the guys is going to win. You know, it's such a weird thing in training camp when you go through these, because it's like the team's playing each other. So you can either be happy about the result or be upset about it. But, you know, one of the Eagles is going to have a good play and one of them is going to get beaten. But that's the way it goes.
I mean, that's the way Twitter is. Like, you know, it could be a cloudy day and people are going to go on Twitter and rip the sun for not being out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just something that I wanted to make sure, like, even though it was over Slay's been really good, I think.
Yeah, I think
You
so
agree
too.
with that?
Yeah. I think Nelson has too, by the way.
He has been. He's not as, like, you can tell the difference though. You know, like if you were just, if they didn't have numbers on, you'd be like, that guy's better. You know, it's noticeable how good Slay is.
And Nelson just got here. Slay's hilarious, man. Who are we talking to in the interview tent? And he was just, who was it? And he's just screaming and screaming until he acknowledged it. Was it
I don't know. I don't remember.
Adams? Yeah. And he's like, thank you. You know, you're acting like I'm not your teammate. He's hilarious. I mean, he's like, there's certain guys. I mean, he's got a little Asante in him as far as his sense of humor, you know, just keeping everyone loose. And there's certain guys that are really fun to watch, like Asante, Michael Vick, Hugh Douglas, because they're just so funny, so naturally funny. You can't help watch them because they're funny on the field as well as, you know, in the locker room and on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And Slay's right up there. But yeah, I think he's playing really well.
I agree. I don't know. I don't have much else in the practice ops. We've seen a lot of Milton Williams inside outside. He had a nice pass batted down today. I've liked what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, and I know we kind of differ on the fact that they're giving him both positions, inside and outside, but I mean, he's a smart guy, and seems like all these rookies are picking things up. You know, they're not going to give him stuff he can't handle, and as long as, you know, they're just going to give him more and more, and as long as he can handle it, they'll give it to him. I think he's got some versatility.
Hey, I don't hate the fact that they're teaching it to him. I just think he's better off inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll play both.
But there's going to be more opportunity inside.
I would think so.
Yeah, you're 4 deep at end. I would think he'd be my 3rd interior guy instead of my 5th end.
Yeah, I just think it's a thing where if he can handle it mentally, let's get him the reps in case we need him.
Yeah, and they might. And he's played well at both positions. And that's the thing with a guy who's that big and athletic, you can see why a coach like Jonathan Gannon, who wants this versatility, who wants to be multiple, would really like him, because there's so much you can do with him. And I wrote it in my story today, but he's strong enough to overpower the tackles. He's quick enough to lose the guards, and he's just big enough to go through center. So you can line him up. You really can line him up at any position.
You can. And I think Hassan Ridgway's job might be in jeopardy.
Yeah, possible. I don't know what they're going to do with Marlon Tuipulotu. I think he's had kind of a quiet camp so far, but he's also a guy who's probably not going to flash as much. He doesn't have that next level athleticism. He might be better in the preseason games when he gets to run stuff a little bit more, but we'll see. Sure. Yeah, he's been quiet. He might not be a roster lock.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
J-Jaw. Let's talk about J-Jaw.
All right.
We've talked about him a little bit. He had a press conference on Wednesday, and look, I think he said some nice things. He talked about you disagree with this maybe. I liked what he had to say, that he kind of went back to training the way he did when he was in college, because he knows that's what worked for him. I'm at the point with him right now where unless I see it, I'm not going to believe that he's going to make a difference. And I'm rooting for him, honestly, in a way. He's a nice kid. and he would help the Eagles quite a bit. Like if they all of a sudden got something out of him, that'd be great. I'm having trouble buying it, especially now that he's in the slot. I mean, I don't think that's where he fits.
Here's what I think, and I almost felt bad for him during his press conference because he's so clearly like grasping at different theories and ideas, and I mean he had this little saying, what was it, like, be great at the things that require no talent, and then let your talent. I don't know, it was something like he was saying, like, really, really be great at blocking and like stuff that doesn't require talent, and then let your talent show on the things that do require talent. I mean, like, I think he's got so many, like every time we talk to him, he's got a new like philosophy or theory or hypothesis, and he's like, now I'm going to do this, and now this is the new thing, and now it's like just clear your mind. I think the only way he'll have success is if he just clears his mind, drops all the theories, and just go play football and stop. Like, I feel like he's overthinking everything. And if he's doing it with us, he talked for almost 15 minutes. And like, he's clearly grasping for answers. Why hasn't he had success the first couple of years? I want to go back to what I did at Stanford, and I talked to my old trainer and all. It's like I just feel
I
like
don't think that's a bad idea.
Maybe not individually, each thing might not be a bad idea, but I just get the feeling he's reaching for something that's not there, and he's just got to clear his mind and stop overthinking everything he does. And I think that's what he's doing, and just go play.
I mean, I guess just go play, but he has to have some way to go about his off season, right? He has to have some sort of training regimen. He has to have a nutrition. So, I mean, I don't know if I kind of like the idea of him going back to what he did when he was a successful player. Now, that's not to say it's going to work, because the level of competition is much higher now than what he faced when he was at Stanford. So it's not like all of a sudden he's going to start training the way he used to train and he's going to be facing, lesser cornerbacks. That's not going to happen. But yeah. I think what he did this offseason was in a way an attempt to unclutter. You don't think so?
I didn't see it that way. After talking to him, I was like just ready to beg him to stop talking and just like go hit the jugs machine. I don't know. And I like the kid. I do. I mean, he's a good kid. I think he wants to do well. I thought he was going to be really good. I mean, he's got good enough speed. He's got great size. He just hasn't put it together. I don't know. I just couldn't listen anymore. And I'm not trying to be mean. I was just like, I just wanted to like, just put an end to this. You're just like, and again, I mean, that's just one example is the college trainer. I mean, everything was trying to explain and rationalize, and this is what happened there, and this is what happened. Just go play. I don't know, you just got to go play football. You know how I always talk about how Jalen Hurts, his mind is so uncluttered. Like he has, like you can ask him a question, his answer might be 5 words long, but that's his answer because that's what he's thinking. He's very clear, and I just think the clearer you can express something, which I'm not doing now, is, the better you're going to be at it, and I just don't see that from him. I just think he needs to change the scenery. I think he's got to go somewhere else and try to play. I just don't think it's going to happen for him here.
Yeah. I
mean, they could use him because, I mean, they don't have anyone they got all these they got all these fast guys.
They got Fulgham.
Yeah, they got Fulgham, who I'm a little down on right now, but I mean, they need one of those guys to be, to be a different kind of receiver than the Quez's and Hightowers and Reagors and Devontaes, who are all pretty much speed guys. Maybe not Reagor as much as he's fast, but they could really use J-Jaw, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Not here.
I don't disagree with you about that part of it. I think I disagree with you. I actually like his approach this offseason. Sure. Yeah. I thought it made sense. I don't know if it's going to give the results he wants, but I don't know if I'm not sure if there is something like that can give him better results.
After 14 minutes and 40 seconds of listening to him answer questions, my sense was that this is a guy who's lost mentally, who's just searching for something that might not even be there.
Maybe, but I also understand that thought process because he's trying to figure out something that works.
Yeah.
Nothing he's done so far in the NFL has worked. So that would probably be what I would do too. I like think about it. You're a second round pick. You've been in the league 2 years. Nothing you've tried in the NFL has brought success. So you think, well, what happened to me? I was a good player, right? Like I was a second round pick for a reason. So I think it's natural. And I think that's a good inclination to be like, well, what made me successful at Stanford? And like I said, I don't think there's any guarantee that works because a lot of other things have changed. The variables are much different.
But I don't think his issues have been that he's out of shape or anything, or I don't think that's been the problem. I mean, the problem's been getting open and catching the ball and having confidence in your game. I don't think going back and doing workouts that you did in college that your trainer looked up from 3 years ago, I don't think that's the answer.
Well, a lot of it was also him talking about routine. And I think a routine can give you confidence. The brain can work in funny ways. If he thinks, even if it's a placebo, right? Even if it's not really helping him get in better shape, but in his mind, he's doing things that once made him successful. Maybe that trickles down. Now, I will say with all this, he had a much better camp last year than he's having so far this year. I think that's fair to say. He made one big play on Thursday. He got open for probably a 15, 20-yard gain from Joe Flacco, who, by the way, had his best day of camp. He should have made my odds say he didn't, but he had his best day.
He's pissed at you too.
He is.
They're mad at you in Audubon.
Yeah, and Delaware too. A whole tri-state area really upset with me right now. But yeah, with JJ, last year it was easier to buy in because it was one bad year. He was having this great camp. I'm not going to buy in again until I see it in games.
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to bring up Jordan Mailata because Kerryon Johnson did without being asked about him. And this is not, he's not the first player to do this. There's just a lot of buzz around Jordan Mailata. And I know I tried to walk into this training camp with an open mind about Andre Dillard and the competition, but Mailata's just been so much better. And the idea that he's still so young and the sky's the limit for him. It really is. He can be so good.
Yeah, and for me, what was really kind of eye-opening was Kerryon Johnson was talking, and he mentioned initially he was just asked about the O-line. It was an interesting question, and he mentioned Lane, Brandon Brooks, Kelsey, and Mailata. So now you and I have both independently written and said Mailata's crushing Dillard in this competition. Now he's got an enormous early lead. But when Kerryon Johnson, and again, he wasn't asked about the left tackle battle, he was just asked about the O-line, and he started talking about Jordan Mailata. He didn't talk about Andre Dillard. And so you find out, when you hear a bunch of players talk about the same player, you're onto something. That means the buzz at practice is that this guy's really good. And Kerryon Johnson said, and then after he was asked to follow up about Jordan, he said, literally some defensive guys just disappear behind him. You feel really safe because when you're that big, hell, you can damn near miss a block and still block two people.
That's the thing. Even if you got to run around him, it's going to take you a long time to get around him.
That's right. For him to be that big, that size, it's amazing to watch him work. He's huge, but he moves well. And he went on and on and on. And again, it's important to note that he wasn't disparaging Andre Dillard. Andre Dillard wasn't even on his mind. He was just coming off the practice field, and he had been running behind Jordan Mailata, and he couldn't stop raving about him. Never heard anybody talk that way about Andre Dillard. Maybe his college teammates, but there's such a difference in these two players, and that kind of thing really brings it home. It's not just us that see it; it's his teammates.
It was funny. It was after we were done everything today, and Jordan Mailata was walking by, so he stopped to chat with me for a minute. And I was like, "Hey, man, how's it going?" He goes, "Oh, just trying to make the team." I was like, "I think we're past that, man. Like, I think you're a little beyond making the team at this point." But I like that. I like and I don't think he was saying it tongue in cheek. I think he really means it. he's still so new to this. I don't know if he realizes yet how good he is.
I think he's starting to.
I think he's starting to. He's like in high school, the really pretty girl who doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, I was like the hot girls that didn't know they were hot.
Yeah, he's like that right now. I think he's starting to pick up on it, like how good he is, but
yeah. Yeah, but I like that attitude. I like that mentality. He's really focused on getting better, and I haven't accomplished anything yet. I mean, he wants to be like the best in the league. And like you said, I mean, his ceiling is unlimited. He's just so new at this. He started 10 games in his life. He's played 10 games in his life, or 12. He started 10, but I don't know how long the Eagles are going to continue with this competition, and it's fine. But I mean, at some point, you got to give him the reps at left tackle because he's going to need them. And I mean, it's no contest right now.
What percentage would you put on it that is his job?
96.
Yeah, I'm around there. I was going to say 95. I mean, there's a lot of time left.
So if he gets a job, I win. I'm closer.
Yeah, you're closer. I mean, there's a lot of time left theoretically. Yeah. There's all the preseason games, and maybe, hey, who knows? If he's done this great through 8 days, maybe the next 8 days belong to Andre Dillard, and we're all shocked. But it's just hard to imagine that right now.
Yeah, and it's not just Mailata playing really, really well. I mean, I don't think Dillard's done anything to. I mean, you can have Mailata win a battle between two really good players, and it's like this, but it's not. I mean, it's more like, I mean, Dillard hasn't done anything to make it interesting. Hey, it's been a year full of uncertainty, but one thing is certain: Independence Blue Cross can help you make the healthcare decisions that are right for you. Choose coverage you can count on with the region's strongest network, Independence Blue Cross. Learn more at ibx.com.
All right, Rube, on Friday morning, my second edition of Stock Up, Stock Down will come out. I'm doing that every week or so. But let's give a little taste of it now. We'll both go through. We didn't talk about this before, so we're flying off the cuff here. But give me one player stock up in the last week.
Well, I think we've talked about a lot of the guys that I'm thinking about, like, certainly McPherson. But I'm going to say Quez Watkins, and we did mention him briefly, but I do think he's been the most consistent wide receiver so far. I don't know if he's made the incredible catches. He caught the one deep ball from Jalen, but I've always liked him. I got the sense at the end of last year that this was a guy who could play, but he's really built on that. He's come in. What did he miss? 2 days? I think he missed maybe the first 2 days, maybe 3, but he missed a couple of days. But since he started practicing, to me, he looks like the guy I thought we would see. And it's funny how I think, when he just looks bigger now that he's more confident. He's running he knows what he's doing more than he did. He looks bigger and more in control, fast. He runs good routes. I mean, I'm impressed with him.
Yeah, he's definitely on the short list. I'll give you one that might be flying under the radar a little bit because that's what this guy does. Javon Hargrave's really good. He's
had a good camp.
He's had a very good camp, especially after last year where he got hurt. And it was just kind of a train wreck. It was one thing after another. He got hurt. He was learning the scheme, and he really didn't show what he could do until much later in the season. He's been very good early. He crushes those one-on-one drills. He is so good in them. He's so powerful, so strong. I think we might see a big season from him. I really do. And he flies under the radar because he's not the flashiest player. And we're so used to seeing Fletcher really flash from the inside. But Hargrave has some of that in him. And I've really liked what I watched out of the last week for him.
I think he looks fitter. He missed so much time in the summer last year. I think it took him maybe half the year physically to be where he wanted to be, but I think he's there now because he's been healthy. Their D line is really loaded. If they can keep this group healthy, this is a unit that's got to carry the defense and the team. I mean, it's the best unit on the team, and they need to play like it. And but I'm impressed with them.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one more stock up player just because we haven't talked about him a bunch. I think Jalen Hurts has had a much better week 2 than he did the first round of practices. it seems like he's mostly gotten better each day a little bit. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I do. There's still, I still don't see the consistency, snap after snap after snap. Um, as far as I haven't really seen the offense get into a rhythm where they're really hitting play after play after play. I think part of that is just how good the D line is. One thing about Sirianni, it seems like they run ones versus ones more than Doug ever did. I like that.
Doug would run a lot of ones versus twos. He'd have specific like offensive periods, which is honestly why he needed such a long practice.
Right.
You'd have offense. It'd be like, this is the offensive period. So the ones we have there against the twos, and they'd be running that for the one offense, and then they'd flip it. You'd have the offensive twos go against the defensive ones, and that's like your defensive period. So it almost like doubles the length of practice right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think ones versus ones it's interesting. Like Andy Reid never did it. He never ran ones versus ones. They would do it at one practice. They would go, they called it the move the ball period. And it was ones versus ones, full pads, live, with a clock, with refs. Like they replicated game situation with the ones. And it was always a highlight at camp. And they would keep score and, have down and distance and everything. But that was like once per camp. Nick does more ones versus ones than it's probably something good to ask him. I like it. I think it's good work.
Yeah. And we should mention that Thursday was the last offensive install day. I don't know if we mentioned that, but that's important because now everything they go through, they've already put in. So theoretically, it should start to get better for the offense. I think through 8 days, I don't know what the tally is. They've been grading offense versus defense every day. I think the defense has clearly been ahead of the offense, but
about 62.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that starts to flip now that the full offense is installed.
Yeah, it'll help to get Devontae back and have that group get Seumalo back, Brandon Brooks. Stock down?
Yeah, give me a stock down.
I'll give you Travis Fulgham.
Okay.
He's getting open. He's getting his hands on balls. I just don't see him finishing plays.
Yeah.
There's been, and you look at each one individually, there's been a lot of tough catches that he hasn't made. But you like to just see him finish some of those. He's not going to come down with all of them. Most of them have been tough plays because he's not a guy that's going to separate. He's not going to run away from anybody. So he's got to use his body and use his size and his wingspan.
Don't ask him about that.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's been a little disappointing. He's got a ton of reps with the ones and just haven't seen what I want to see, especially after the way last year ended.
That's fair. I think that's fair. And he's been so close to making some spectacular catches and he just hasn't made any yet. It's like, make one of those. You're allowed. You're allowed to make a play, buddy. Like, do it.
Yeah.
All right. For me, in this, I don't want to worry people with this one because I think he's looked very good in certain areas. But Miles Sanders, he's got to stop dropping the ball. Yeah. And he also put one on the ground today, a fumble. He's got to clean some of that up. I think he's looked fine as a runner. I mean, he looks strong and fast when he's actually running, but the fumble was troubling and the drops have to stop. We're talking about easy catches. I'm not talking like, spectacular Corey Clement Super Bowl back of the end zone catches. I'm talking like middle of the field. You're running across or, depth of like 10 yards, 5 yards, got to catch the ball.
Yeah. And we know Nick's going to throw to the backs. I mean, it's just, this is why this group of backs is here. I mean, they're all good receivers. Kerryon Johnson was in Detroit. We know Gainwell was in college. Boston Scott, we know what he can do in the passing game. And Miles, if he's going to be the bell cow back, he's got to catch those balls. And he didn't last year, and he hasn't this camp. And it's getting to be concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I look at it as if he can make those catches, you'd rather have Miles Sanders out there than Boston Scott. And that's not a knock on Boston, but Miles is more special. You'd rather be able to give him those touches. But if you can't rely on the catch the ball, I wonder if they're going to hesitate at certain times.
The problem is you can't take him off the field. People know you're going to throw the ball. You take him off the field. You got these guys.
But I mean, in like defined passing situations,
Right.
I mean, think about it. The two areas where he struggled last year, catching the ball and pass protection.
Right.
You got to be able to do both of those, be on the field on third down.
Yeah.
So, I think he has a 3 down running back skill set, but he has to put it together to become that player. And he hasn't done that yet.
He was so good in the passing game as a rookie. And I can't imagine it was a fluke or an accident because
You
I
don't
mean,
catch 50 balls as a fluke.
and it wasn't just like dump offs. I mean, he was running,
Running wheels 30 yards downfield.
He was. And, he had soft hands. I mean, he caught that one in the end zone from
Who?
a quarterback who's no longer here.
Close.
And, and I mean, that's like a slot receiver catch. So, he's working on it. We see him in the jugs machine. We know he wants to get better at it, but the consistency just hasn't been there yet.
Yeah. And some guys never get it. As good as a receiving back as like Darren Sproles was, he never had the smoothest hands. He dropped some here and there. And people don't remember that because of how electric he was when he would catch the ball. But that was something that even like late in his career, when he was a really established player, he dropped some sometimes. So it's not like a foregone conclusion that it's going to get cleaned up.
They used to throw outs to him and he couldn't catch that. Crosses and stuff. I mean, but yes, Darren Sproles did not he caught like 500 passes in his career, but he did have a lot of drops here, which was interesting. But yeah, once he did catch it,
it was worth the risk because he was so talented when he had the ball.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say risk. It was worth it because it's not really a risk him dropping a ball, but
yeah. So he's, it's an issue. It definitely is.
Yeah. But I want to make sure people realize him just running looks great.
He does look really good.
One the other day, he cut back, turned upfield the other way. I mean, he's still got the horsepower behind him. He's a good runner.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we had. Stock up, stock down. Before we wrap this up, we just want to mention and kind of give our congratulations finally to Harold Carmichael going in the Hall of Fame this weekend. There's no one who's ever met Harold who is not happy for him right
now. That's true. And, he's such a good guy. And I've probably told this story before, but when I flew into Canton Airport for Doc's induction a few years ago, when you come out of the concourse there, there's all these autograph people, like with their autograph books, like dealers, because where else are you going to find like 200 Hall of Famers in one place? At the Canton Airport the day before the Hall of Fame ceremony. So they would all get there and they're running around. There's Floyd Little, there's, Emmett Smith, so they're getting all these autographs of Hall of Famers. They have pictures and everything ready to go, and they have their albums. And then Harold comes out, and I'm walking down the hallway with him, and I see two dealers run up, and one says, "Who's that?" And the other one goes, "Oh, that's Harold Carmichael." And the one's like looking at his book, goes, "Oh, no, he's not in the Hall of Fame." And they both just walk away, and like he didn't have any value because he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. And I'm thinking, I just remember thinking how, and he was like, he laughed it off and everything. And I remember another time the next day, he couldn't get in the building. They wouldn't let him in the building early. He wanted to see because it was after, it was 18. So it was only a few months after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and they had a Nick Foles display case, and Harold wanted to see it, and they wouldn't let him in the building. And I had my press credential, and I snuck him in a side door, and I'm thinking this guy's he was third in NFL history when he retired in catches or in yards, and he can't even get in the building. And I snuck him in this back doorway, and and he got in. But it's nice to know he's getting in the front door this weekend, and I'm really happy for him. He's so deserving. What was he, 11th, 10th round pick, 8th round pick or something?
Yeah.
Really special player, special guy. He's been around this organization for a long time, and just thrilled for him.
Yeah, it was really cool. Right after he got the call, which was a while ago at this point because it had to get pushed back, but the entire Eagles organization met in the lobby and welcomed him back. And I had a chance to ask him about that a few weeks ago, and he still tears up thinking about it. But that's You're right. He played there for so long, but he was around this team for decades,
Yeah.
and like even all the younger players like Mike Quick. I don't know if there's anyone Mike Quick holds with more reverence than Harold Carmichael. It'll be fun to watch him go in for sure.
They were talking on the sideline. I think it was yesterday, Quick and Harold, and I started doing the math in my head, like how many combined catches, touchdowns, and yards those two guys had. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. So very happy for him.
Yeah, and everyone is. So congrats, Harold. That's certainly awesome. That's it. That's all we have. Please, if you enjoy the podcast, do the stuff. Rate, subscribe, wherever you get your pods. Do the stuff. I actually had someone at camp this week walk up and said, "I did the stuff for you." So I appreciate that. It looks like you're about to cut me off.
Well, we haven't done any chit chat lately. I just wanted to congratulate New Jersey's first two women to ever win Olympic individual gold medal. No New Jersey woman had ever won an individual track and field gold medal, and then two did it in one day. How cool is that? Athing from Trenton won the 800 American record, 155.21. And then Sydney McLaughlin from Dunella, New Jersey, at a Union Catholic, won the intermediates, broke her own world record. Incredible race. Both of them were incredible races. It's just so cool, and I've known Sydney since she was like 15, and I announced a couple of her meets. Athing didn't run high school track. She ran like open meets, but they're both really just good people, great ambassadors for New Jersey. Athing was being interviewed on one of the morning shows, and she was going through this whole litany of reasons New Jersey's better than New York. It was awesome. So just so happy for them. And then English Gardner ran on the 4x1 from Eastern High School, South Jersey, last night, or this morning in Tokyo, last night here. And if they win, she won't run the final, but if they win, she'll get a gold medal for running in the round. So really cool seeing people that, athletes you saw in high school and as teenagers excelling on the greatest stage in the world. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. You were proud of me the other day. I left my house early to get to NovaCare to watch the men's 200 final.
That was impressive. Yeah.
I was excited.
I'm not really sure you really did, but you said you did. I'll believe you.
I did. Okay. The Canadian dude won.
Yeah, he did. How about the 4x1? US 4x1 couldn't even get the baton around the track.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. How do you lose to Ghana?
If they had watched Kobayashi eating hot dogs, they would have gotten the details right.
You're right. They probably could have put Kobayashi on the team and done better.
All right, that'll wrap it up. For Reuben, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you soon.